Cameron from the Brushfire Mind, and this is coffee. If you check out the link down below in the description, you can find ways to support us by buying us more coffee. Okay, thanks.
I thought everybody could use a little kiss of a reminder from our old buddy Cameron that he's still out there somewhere, and we all miss him. That said, hey, several of you bought me a cup of coffee yesterday, and I appreciate the hell out of it. Here's the link in the chat for anybody else who wants to throw a cup of Joe our way. And as you can see, subtle reminder that the team is growing again. We've got Mario on tap, and he has been several times of late, and we appreciate you joining us again this morning, Mario. How you
My
doing
pleasure.
today?
Doing pretty good.
My camera's a little off. Let me you want to introduce the topic this morning?
Well, man, you gave me 20 minutes of prep time. Okay, so, right. Yeah, this morning we're talking about I don't know if it was decided yesterday or not, but there's a current Supreme Court case being deliberated. It's the Vivek Murthy, the Attorney General. No, he's the Surgeon General, right? Yeah, Surgeon General versus the state of Missouri. And the heart of the argument, there was a suit brought against the Biden administration by a collection of state's attorney general, red state attorney generals, basically that are saying that we don't want the government. We're suing so that the government can't talk directly to social media companies and therefore force their version of the truth on social media. So it's anti-censorship. It's definitely it's an important First Amendment case that hasn't really gotten the publicity that it warranted either late last week or this week, probably because it doesn't bleed, it doesn't lead. You know what I mean? It's a case about higher things, not about the sensation of the day. So yeah, the case at issue got started when a Republican state attorney general from Missouri and Louisiana decided to sue the Biden administration in May 2022, arguing that various government arms, including the Center for Disease Control and the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, violated the First Amendment while communicating with social media companies. The heart of that going to COVID, okay, which is the government, the gift that never stops giving to the government. And someone said, "Nice ceiling." I know it's a hurricane-proof house. It's not sticks and glass. It's actual timbers holding it up. It's not my house. I couldn't afford this, but I'll inherit it. Anyway.
So yeah. What brought this story to my attention this morning in particular is there's trending stuff on the old Twitters. So let me switch the sharing tab here and bring up this one. So and I should be sharing the audio from this. I want to play for you guys this clip. DC Drano shares, remember the Supreme Court justice who was explicitly hired because of her skin color? Who couldn't define a woman who believes in lenience for pedophiles? Yeah, she thinks the First Amendment is too strict on the federal government. So, actually, before I play this clip, I want to show you. I want to show you this to remind you guys of what we're really talking about here. This is Joe Biden.
Choosing someone to sit in the Supreme Court, I believe, is one of the most serious constitutional responsibility a president has.
Okay, this is a 1-minute clip, and we're going to watch the whole clip because of what he says. He just said, I believe that selecting a Supreme Court justice is one of the most serious responsibilities that a president has. He takes it so seriously, in fact, that he says the rest of this.
Our process is going to be rigorous. I will select a nominee worthy of Justice Breyer's legacy of excellence and decency. While I've been studying candidates' backgrounds and
worthy of a legacy of excellence and decency. Let me remind you, one of the criticisms of you've all probably heard the criticism of Ketanji Brown-Jackson that she was unable to define what a woman is, right? She said, "I'm not a biologist." Like, hold on a minute. This ain't hard. I've got 4 kids. I can tell you exactly what a woman is. Please believe. Biological female. This isn't complicated, right? And this is but he just said that the decency is an important part of that. Ketanji Brown-Jackson is also rather infamous for her very lenient and defensive posture on protecting pedophiles from the consequences of the law.
Writings. I've made no decision except one.
I've made no decision except one.
The person I will nominate will be someone with extraordinary qualifications, character, experience, and integrity.
That all sounds great. Qualifications, character, and integrity. That all sounds great. Those sound like exactly the attributes that you might look for in a federal judge, or more importantly, obviously in this case, a Supreme Court justice who will serve for the rest of this person's life in that position.
And that person will be the first Black woman ever nominated to the United States Supreme Court.
And that person will be selected from a demographic that has been pared down to include only those members of a specific category, which, by the way, that specific category includes the categorical tag woman, which this person cannot even define because she's not a biologist. So he has said, I'm going to take 6%, only 6% of the population.
Yep.
And from those, I will select only the 1 or 2% that have graduated from law school.
That's what I was going to say. The process,
and I will immediately reject 90% of all candidates who could be qualified based solely on race and gender to select for this exact coupling of identity markers. There is no more clear description of what it means to be biased in a selection process. You cannot select the best available candidate from only one pool of identity political selections. It's not possible.
It's long overdue in my view.
Why? Why is it long overdue? Why is it, Joe, that we have not previously had a Black female candidate?
the process wasn't rigorous enough at the time. It wasn't rigorous enough to, isolate only, as you said, 6% of the population. So now that we're doing that, now that we have that rigor in place, it's a new day for jurisprudence.
So, but let's be clear and simple on the probabilities, on the possibilities here. The bell curve is pretty clear. There are more brilliant men than there are brilliant women. Women generally tend to cluster around the mean.
Yep.
That is not to say that all women are stupider than men. It is to say that at the extreme, and let's be clear, when we're talking about a position like the Supreme Court, you're talking about people of extreme, or at least you should be talking about people of extreme accomplishment, right? Hey, I'm just an old war fighter with some freelance gigs, right? I am smarter than most of the people that you will ever meet, and I do not live at the extreme edge of the bell curve from which we expect these people to be chosen.
No, you're just outside of that, just outside of that center.
Yeah.
On the right, but the male and female intelligence, to put it another way, there are more male geniuses than there are female geniuses but there are also more male imbeciles than there are female imbeciles. So,
Correct.
and that actually serves a kind of a social biological purpose. Like there have to be expendable men. Like expendable men is one of the requirements of any sort of civilization, because it needs people who we didn't need, who they can expend towards the conquest of land or in defense. So
Yeah, we can't build skyscrapers without a few dudes falling to their death.
yeah, you need drones. You have to have some drones.
Sergeant Major says SCOTUS is a collection of Ivy League lawyers who stick together. Yeah, there's another story about the SCOTUS going on right now, and an injunction preventing Texas from arresting and deporting illegals that is just absolutely harrowing. So just a little reminder for you guys. One more little reminder for you guys. This is Ketanji Brown-Jackson. Well, I mean, this isn't. This is Senator Blackburn right here, but she's asking a
Can you provide a
question.
definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition? No,
Yeah,
I can't.
you can.
What?
Not in
Okay.
this context.
So you
I'm not a
believe the
biologist.
meaning of the word woman is so unclear and controversial that you can't give me a definition?
Senator, in my work as a judge, what I do is I address disputes. If there's a dispute about a definition, people make arguments, and I look at the
All right.
law. And
Okay, that's enough of that. I address disputes. If there's a dispute about a definition, I look at the law. There is no dispute. Okay, let me be crystal clear about this. There is no dispute about the definition of woman. There are sociopaths who are pretending like the sky is orange and telling you that you're crazy if you disagree with that basic assertion. That's what it is. The question of male and female, the question of biological sex, and like they're asking the question, what is a woman? They're not even talking about the more aloof academic question of gender identity, right? So you can have that bullshit argument about gender identity, but that is actually a different argument. And the thing to remember is that the people who want you to believe that there's a difference between gender and sex are also arguing that there is no such thing as biological sex. These people are not intelligent, creative thinkers. These people are not good faith actors making credible arguments. These people are telling you that you can cut yourself on a basketball because round is sharp and square is flat. These people are arguing counterfactuals with the explicit intent of corrupting actual observable reality. They are liars in the extreme. They're arguing that water is hot because fire is wet.
So let's get to the one of the main, I guess, would you call it a gaffe? What she said? Okay.
Yeah, that's
don't know.
probably the best way to describe it. So
does she
here's-
believe it? But yeah, whether or not the government, this is what she's saying in regards to whether or not the government can, insert its hand directly into social media and control the messaging. Okay.
Oh yeah, I've got the clip right here.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Justice Jackson?
Of
So
course.
my biggest concern is that your view has the First Amendment hamstringing the government in significant ways in the most important time periods. I mean, what would you have the government do? I've heard you say a couple times that the government can post its own speech, but in my hypothetical, kids, this is not safe, don't do it, is not going to get it done. And so I guess some might say that the government actually has a duty to take steps to protect the citizens of this country, and you seem to be suggesting that that duty cannot manifest itself in the government encouraging or even pressuring platforms to take down harmful information.
So she just made it very clear there that she is in favor of the government coercing. She used the word pressuring, right? Understand that. Force. Her argument is that the government should be allowed to use force to restrict the speech of individuals. And this is important, okay? The argument for anti-conservative censorship by social media platforms has always been they're private entities, and so the First Amendment doesn't apply to them. Legally, that is correct. For example, many times while the show has been live, you guys have seen a commenter will pop up in the chat and they're trying to sell me bot accounts or sub for sub stuff, shady, shitty ways to grow the channel with fake subscribers and stuff like that, or bot farms out of India or whatever. And I ban those people, right? This platform, the show itself, not the individual distribution platforms that I have, is my private platform, and I have every right to not tolerate people speaking in a way that I don't want them to speak. You'll notice I don't ban people for disagreeing with me politically or even making fun of me. I mean, we've had people come on here and make jokes about Cameron and I being gay together, and we don't ban that. We laugh at those people. We make jokes back, and we have fun, and they cry and go away. But I don't put up with solicitors coming on my channel either. So there's that. So the argument was always, because it's a private organization, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, etc., because they're private entities, the First Amendment doesn't apply. But we now know from the Twitter files that that is not the case. I made the argument previously that because all of those entities are substantially funded by government technology programs, that they don't actually qualify as private citizens in that way. And now we know from the Twitter files that not only was the argument I made in that way correct, but as it turns out, above and beyond, there were whole government agencies and individual elected politicians explicitly threatening to use the force of government to cause harm to those entities unless they were to comply with specific government edicts. And we also now know that, especially in the case of the COVID misinformation fiasco, what happened is legitimate, true, and correct information was actively suppressed by these platforms at the direction and under direct threat by the government. And then incorrect, fallacious, misleading, and yes, deadly dangerous information. For example, Rachel Maddow saying, we now know that if you get the shot, it stops COVID it stops COVID right there. Nobody can catch it. You can't catch it. You can't spread it. You can't die from it. Right? And they amplified that message. While at the same time, there were doctors out there saying, whoa, 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 this is an untested mRNA vaccine, which isn't even the same thing as a vaccine as you understand it. It's technologically distinct from the introduction of a live or dead virus for the purposes of kickstarting your immune system into developing an immunity. It works in a different way. It is a genetic engineer model. And those messages were suppressed. The idea that ivermectin can be used as a treatment, right? And I'm not making any claim to the veracity of the claim of use of ivermectin, but we had amplified messages saying, oh, well, this is horse paste. This is a medication for farm animals. Well, that's only true in the same way that we also use aspirin and Advil in different doses for animals. The ketamine that so many of your teenagers love to coma out on is a veterinary pharmaceutical as well. but it is also prescribed by doctors to humans in controlled doses for particular purposes. So we now know that not only was conservative speech being suppressed by the government, but explicitly false information was being bolstered by the government. And when I say by the government, I mean that. And we have the evidence. We have the Twitter files. The Facebook files are going to come out eventually. I suspect there will be something similar with regard to YouTube, Google, and Alphabet above them. We know conclusively that government entities, and most especially within the Biden administration and prior to that, the Biden campaign offices, were actively threatening these entities, had CIA assets, FBI agents involved with these entities, explicitly telling them, you will suppress this speech and you will amplify this speech. That is gross government interference, and there's no excuse for it.
Let me get a few words in here. All right. So
Please do. Sorry.
You talked about all right. Think about how much of the communication infrastructure, okay, how much of the internet, that we use on a daily basis, how much of that got its origins with DARPA funding, okay? Virtually all of it, okay? Google, the origins of Google, at least that initial capital and the was provided by DARPA, okay? So these are publicly funded, okay, in their origin, okay? So there is an argument that we're talking about a public utility, all right, that the government doesn't have a right to censor because we, the people, ostensibly through tax money, actually funded the foundation of this stuff. All right. Now, second, you played the clip of Ketanji Jackson. Okay. Well, she said it. The sentence before what was clipped, I think, is kind of the most important thing here. Okay. She said, whether or not the government can do this depends on the application of our First Amendment jurisprudence. Okay. So what that means, and that really it gets to the heart of the difference between a leftist Supreme Court justice and a right-wing Supreme Court justice. Okay, right-wing Supreme Court justices are, what are they? Constructivist? Is that the word? Where they look at they look at what the amendment is. Okay, they look at what the section of the Constitution is, and they want to interpret it basically as narrowly and succinctly as they can. Okay, with basically objective reasoning of what it means without all the subjective nuance that comes from passage of time after it was originally written and signed into law, right?
Yeah,
liberals do the exact opposite. Okay,
the word you're looking for is constructionist, strict construction,
constructionist,
yeah, and
well,
they interpret the law based on what is written in plain language.
Correct.
And this is a quote from Supreme Court jurisprudence, not from the nebulous penumbra of unenumerated theory.
Well, yes, and that penumbulous penumbra, yes, that is exactly what liberal justices draw upon. See, they look at what's in the Constitution, and then the first thing that they're going to do is look for examples in the past where there have been rulings, okay, that chip away, okay, at that foundational right of those foundational values. Okay, they're always looking. It's progress. You see, they're always looking to progress upon a previous erroneous ruling. Okay, and then use that to expand, usually in the direction of expanding government power against the benefit of the people. So it really, what I see going on in this Supreme Court case is it's kind of like a retread of the government, because they're suing the Biden administration and the Surgeon General, okay, basically over COVID, over what happened during COVID and social media. This is like a retread of the Disinformation Governance Board, okay, that the Department of Homeland Security tried to unveil with, remember Nina Jankovic, the Harry Potter hoe, okay?
The Ministrix of Truth.
Yeah, yes, okay. So yeah, that failed miserably, partly because of the branding. The branding was awful, okay, hilarious but awful. So this is just a backdoor towards achieving the same end. They want that Disinformation Governance Board. In fact, every single Western government, okay, disinformation is their real, aside from like white supremacists who are going to attack any minute now, any minute. Okay, we haven't seen it yet, but any minute. All right, I know they could already be in your house. So aside from that, it's Have you talked to your son about white supremacy? Do it before someone else does, Chris. Okay. Um, so what was I saying here? Right. So disinformation. They're obsessed. They're obsessed with with control. Okay. They're obsessed with the control of information. What you think, you know, what you see. Okay. They think that if they can control it enough, then they will be the only voice. Okay. And if you look at some of our here, you want to see where America could go. The first thing I look at is see what the other anglophonic countries are doing. Right. So Canada, life in prison if you post the N-word online. Okay.
Yeah.
Madness. All right. The United Kingdom. Okay. 2 years in jail for posting a sticker with accurate demographic information. All right. Australia basically was the most coercively vaxxed country, okay, in the Anglophonic, in the Anglophone.
No, they
we'll call
literally
it Five
had
Eyes.
they literally had concentration camps for the unvaxxed.
Correct. They literally had police seizing children out of the arms of fathers and forcibly injecting them. Okay,
At gunpoint.
I've seen the video. All right, so and this Bill of Rights, okay, which we were talking before the show. You talk about how that's negative rights, right? Like it doesn't grant you rights, but it simply states that the government cannot take away like said rights. Okay,
Right. It says you as a person have X right explicitly. This is a
Mhm.
right that is inherent to you and
Right.
utterly divorced and separate from government. And we are listing it here to be very, very clear that the government is explicitly forbidden from interfering in your right.
Yeah. Well, Ketanji talks about how this ruling, if it goes to the conservatives, could hamstring the federal government's ability to control speech or interfere in speech, right? Yeah, that's the entire point of it. Okay, like it's another one of those right over your freaking head moments. I mean, well,
Right.
it's charitable for me to say that it was just over her head, that she's not a malicious actor. She's cut of the exact same cloth as remember that psychotic journalist on MSNBC who was up there like preening and gloating about, did you know that these Christian nationalists, they think that rights come from God? Like, you remember that moment? Like she thought it was a big tell. Like that would be eye-opening to her audience when, yes, that's exactly. You have no concept of what natural rights are. Okay, you don't have to believe in any particular faith or even anything Abrahamic in origin. Okay, to have
Right.
understand the concept of
the
natural
language in
rights.
the documents. Right. The language in the documents is that the natural rights of men come from their creator. So the authors of that their expectation, their understanding is that those rights are granted to you by God as he creates you. Now but they use that language, the creator. I've made this argument many times and I will continue to make it. The atheist is always wrong because it's this simple. There is indisputably a hierarchy of entity, right? I am more advanced than a monkey. It is possible, although doubtful, that I am the most advanced entity that there is. If that is the case, then I am what is referred to by the use of the term, the defining term, God. Now, more likely, I suspect that there is an entity that is more advanced than me, and at some point we find a pinnacle. There's a point where advancement and hierarchy ends. And that extraordinary peak of entity is what is picked out, what is selected out by the use of the language God. Right? So even if you don't know exactly what the thing is that you're referring to as God, you are making reference to a thing which indisputably is extant. This is where the atheist falls on their face. So the use of the word creator in the construct of the language of the legal documents is to say that because you exist and for no other reason, because you exist as a human being with free will, then we presuppose, based on that information alone, that you are instantiated with the unalienable rights, as in these rights cannot be removed, divorced, alienated from you at a metaphysical, existential level. The rights are not something you have. They are something that are a defining characteristic of you being an existing entity. And because these rights are yours, we are explicitly enjoining the government against any interference in those particular rights. Now, the nebulous penumbra of unenumerated rights is a thing. There are many things that we have the right to. We have so many rights as living things that the government, that the founders did not see, not to be useful, but to even be possible to enumerate all of those rights. For example, I have the right to eat strawberries, right? It's much easier to say I have the right to eat food. And it's even easier than that to say I have the right to live life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. So if it is the case that I have the right to live, then it follows that I must have the right to do all of the things required for me to continue to live, which includes eating food.
Does
I might.
the government have a compelling argument to offer you strawberries? I don't know. I would ask Ketanji that hard-hitting question.
Well, the government does not have a compelling reason to offer me strawberries, but they cannot provide a compelling reason to stop me from eating strawberries.
I see.
So no one owes me strawberries, but you can't fucking stop me either. Right? Look at healthcare versus firearms, right? The Second Amendment says that we have a right to keep and bear arms. It does not, however, say that that means that someone has to buy them for us. The left, we got the whole Obamacare thing because the left argued everybody has a right to health care. And from that, it follows, according to their logic and their argument, that you have a right to health care. It follows that health care must be provided to you. I can agree that you have a right to health care insofar as if it is available and you can afford it, then the government does not have the authority to interfere with your acquisition. So if you want to purchase health care, go for it, right? But if it is the case that having a right to access health care is the same as the government having to pay for your health care, and necessarily to do so by using firearms to steal money from me against my will to pay for your bottom surgery, you piece of shit, then it follows that you should also be deprived of your wages and enslaved to the whim of violent government for the explicit purpose of supplying my practice ammunition.
Yep.
If your argument is correct, you owe me bullets.
Especially according to the original iteration of the Affordable Care Act, which declared that you have such a right to health care that you don't have the right not to pay for health care. Like,
correct. If you do not currently own an AR-15,
right,
you should be fined.
Yeah, $2,000 a year if you do not own an AR-15. That would be Affordable Care Act Second Amendment style. Okay.
Yeah. The Affordable Firearms Act.
So
yeah, Xander says it went way beyond the right. It was a mandate. Correct.
Right.
It was literally slavery.
Justice Roberts had to creatively interpret it as a tax for it to pass his constitutional muster, and then and that's what happened.
And even taxation.
Come on. I didn't mention property tax. Okay, I didn't send you off on a tangent. All right, there's still time to stop, Chris. You can pull back now.
The Constitution still allows for the use of slavery as a punishment to be assigned by a court in the case of a duly convicted criminal, and I think we should do more of that.
That's where you get the strawberries. fucking forced slavery.
Not forced slavery. Assigned, sentenced. You are not fit for society. You are now fit for the strawberry patch.
I agree with that. I agree completely. Why?
You robbed a liquor store. You're going to go and harvest hops without pay. You get 3 hops in a cot. You will harvest hops to make beer. And there you go.
Is that
Xander asked, did you see the federal court decision about illegal aliens carrying guns? I did not. And that, if you send me the link, that will be the show for Friday. Thanks for bringing that to my attention. If you don't send me the link, I'll just have to go look it up, and it will still be the show for Friday. Love you. So I'm going to go ahead and put a pin in it there. I've got to go shoot some houses. Thanks for joining us again this morning, Mario. And for the rest of you guys, thanks for watching. We love you, and we will see you tomorrow.
ciao?